I've actually had a few requests to elaborate more on this ball. And I did try to explain it briefly on the video and on the Facebook page, the Singlet a Ball Facebook page. But I think I understand that sometimes you just need to see something visually. I am the same way. So thank you to those of you who made this request, and I will try to show what I'm doing with this pattern. I'm going to start with a ball I have just wound, and since it's darker in color, I'm going to try to use lighter color yarns here. The first step, of course, is to draw a line around the middle of the ball. Most designs, you got to start with some kind of a basic line, and this pattern is basically started by, oops, I didn't go deep enough. This basically is started with a single line around the middle of a ball. Let me just get started here. Okay, I'm gonna just try to line this up. This is not my favorite way to draw a line, but it's sufficient for what we're going to do here. I don't want to make this terribly long, so I'm going to probably just do this in some shorter clips and put them all together. But yeah, we're starting with a basic line. Now I'll show you again on this one. Now I'm going to use 4-ply yarn to demonstrate this, a larger yarn. But I want to point out that this was my starting line. This was a single line around the ball. And I did 2 rows of white. You can't really see that very well, but that is 2 rows of white. 2 rows of white, 2 rows of white, etc. But everything grows from this line. In fact, there you can see 2 rows of white, but then opposite on the other side of that line is yellow. So on either side of that line is white and the other side yellow. So I will first do a line of white on this side of the ball. Now I could have done white on both sides of the line, but that makes kind of a bolder line that it's a different kind of effect. So I did put 2 rows of white. So that'll go all the way around the ball. Okay, I am finishing up my first row around the ball. Oops. And now I'm going to do a second row. I'm going to just close this row. I like to do this by getting under that stitch. I'm having some trouble with my needle. There we go. There, now I've closed that row. Now I'm going to do my second row around the ball, because I want this white line to be bolder and distinct. Okay, I'm finishing up my second row of white. Golly, can't get that little stitch. Okay, now I'm going to go under the stitch, off to the side, snip that off, and I'm going to do the other side of the midline with yellow. Doesn't matter where I begin. Using a cell phone camera here, so the focus isn't always the best. Okay, I'm in that spot now. And I just bury my tail. And then I'm doing the back side of the line in a row of yellow. So I'll go all the way around with this row of yellow, and I'll come back in a sec. Okay, I'm finishing up my row of yellow. Don't mind the sound of the snowplow outside. We've just had a lot of snow here. And it gets a little noisy out there when they come by. Okay, so I'm finishing up this row of yellow. And I want to stop and talk about this pattern. So I will off to the side. And I'll snip that off. Okay, so two rows will give you a solid line, but doing just one row will give you kind of a broken line. And what I mean is that you'll only see little teeth as you go along. But if you do 2 rows, it'll look solid. Let's look back at this ball here. The thing about this technique is, well, let's look here, and this is much more clear. I did 1 row of orange here, 1 row of blue, 1 row of orange, 1 row of blue. But the result of this, which is very fun, the result of doing 1 row only is that it looks like the line is going this way, when actually you've sewn in this way, in this direction. So that's what's cool about this technique. You get this line, these end up looking like lines, going actually perpendicular to the direction that you sewed. So I'm going to switch my color here to orange. And if I do every other row, yellow, orange, it's going to, instead of looking like the rows are going this way, the rows are going to look like they're going this way. So again, I'll just start somewhere. It doesn't matter where I start in the row. Now, do you see how, if I do only 1 row, you just see these little, just little of one color, of the yellow color, it would just be like that. But if I did 2 rows, you would see more of a solid line, like you do in the white here. So let me finish my row here. Okay, almost done with my orange row now. Oops, I got a little curly there. Okay. And join the stitch here. Come back. There we go. It's kind of hard to watch my own work, hands working through the camera, rather than looking at my hands directly. Okay. And you snip off there. Okay. So now my next row is going to be yellow. I'll load some yellow on my needle. Let's see. Okay. Now, let me just give you a little hint, because the yellow, this row is going to continue this little line of yellow. So I often like to see if I could just grab a couple little fibers of that yellow on the tip of my needle. And you see how that line continues here? Just a couple little fibers. I just think it helps make sure that that it connects to create a longer line. So instead of this little line, you get a longer line. Oops, I didn't get underneath my... Again, I'm looking through the camera lens, the phone. Okay, now I'm going to go all the way around. I'll come back when I'm done. Okay, now I've done several rows. I think probably about 6 rows. Yellow, green, yellow, orange, yellow, orange, yellow, orange. And you can see that even though I'm stitching in this direction, the lines look like it's going in the perpendicular direction. So I don't know if we call that an optical illusion or, or what, but it's neat. You know, it's just a cool little pattern, not a pattern, a technique maybe. And you do these miraculous looking things all by switching colors. It's kind of cool. I do want to point out, let's put the old ball here, that while you're in the middle of the ball, you don't have this curving problem, but as you get towards the poles, the outsides, you start curving tighter and tighter and tighter. I don't know if that makes sense, but there's only so many stitches that can go around a ball, right? But as you get into these smaller and smaller circles, those stitches, you may have to, like here, like skip one stitch, right? Here's a skip. Skipped a stitch there. And there's another skip. And that's okay. Because that ends up being cool too. Because when you get to this bigger section, you're skipping stitches a lot. There's a lot of skip stitches. And I think it looks really organic and cool. And I thought, you know, kind of like the pictures you've seen of the retina of an eye, or maybe some kind of a weird mushroom, right? But as you get closer and closer and closer to the middle, you're going to have to skip stitches more and more. And I'll just show you what that is going to look like. It's just basically these 2 stitches, you think they look too close, so you just skip one like that, right? And then in your next row, it'll look like one of those coming together, veins coming together. So it's quite all right. I think I skipped a row here, so I skipped a stitch. So anyway, that'll be part of the process if you are doing this in a ring around your ball. Maybe you're doing it in a triangle, in an 8 triangle pattern. I've done one whole triangle with this technique of going back and forth. Instead of going around and around inside the triangle, I've done a row and just gone back starting from this side, just going back and back like that until I get to the bottom, right? And there's a little, your last row is going to be 1 stitch, you know, it's going to be kind of tiny, but it's cool. It's a cool technique, so I hope this helps. I hope you get to experiment a little bit with it and have fun.